Hi, this is the Magnificent Midlife podcast, and I'm Rachel Lancaster. This is where we celebrate women in midlife and beyond. We challenge the status quo and bash those negative stereotypes about being an older woman. We're not over the hill at 40, 50, 60. We're just getting started, and the world needs us now more than ever. I'll be talking all things midlife, about issues that matter, and sharing fabulous stories of amazing women doing very cool stuff. Now is our time. My guest today is Jessica Kupferman, the CEO and co-founder of She Podcasts, the largest women's podcasting community, and she's the organiser of She Podcasts Live. The She Podcast brand currently supports over 10,000 female podcasters, and I've been in this online community since I started my podcast, and it's pretty amazing. So welcome, Jessica.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
It's really exciting. So this podcast has come about in a rather fortuitous way. So Jessica sent out an email to her email list and said, I want to talk to you. Can I come on your podcast? And I emailed back and said, yes, of course you can come on my podcast. So here we are.
Yay, here we are. Thank you for doing that too. It's been really fun to talk to people in the community, that especially those that I've never gotten to meet in person before. It's been really great.
It's good.
It's the best community, and like this little tour has definitely confirmed that for me.
So. Oh, good. I'm so pleased. But it is amazing just to think 10,000 female podcasters that you've got in the network. It's
21,000.
21.
Does it say 10,000 on my bio?
You said 10,000 on your bio.
21,000.
Got to update your bio.
I know. I do. Sorry. I do. You're right. It's 21,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's crazy. It just has grown like wildfire, especially in the last couple of years, which makes sense. I mean, during the pandemic, lots of people started podcasting, but I mean, it has always grown like a weed that we couldn't keep a handle on since the beginning. It's been great, though.
Well, I think it is a brilliant way, podcasting is a brilliant way for women to find their voice, because we don't have that many platforms to have a voice. I didn't have a platform to have a voice, and nobody was listening to me, and I wanted to be listened to. So this gives it to us, doesn't it? It's phenomenal. I think podcasting is brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, actually, that's how I felt as well. I was looking for, this was years ago, 10 years ago, I was looking for shows to be on. I wanted a broader reach, and I wanted to be able to sell design lessons, web and graphic design services to more than just local people. And when I looked for shows to be on, there were mostly men, younger white men, interviewing each other over and over and over and over again. And I was like, well, they're never going to have me on, but how about I have them on? How about if I just knew so many amazing, brilliant women, and I was like, no one's having them on. It's stupid. So yeah, I mean, it was kind of like, I wanted to have a voice too. I mean, and I have never had that problem in my life. I'm not shy. I have no stage fright, but I was irritated that there was no platform for us to be able to get to know other people like ourselves, which is why your show is so great, I think.
I know, I'm excited actually by it. I have interviewed the most incredible women in midlife up, women that you just don't generally hear from. And that's been very exciting.
That's wonderful. I love that.
So how did you get into doing what you do? Was it really just you trying to sell things and get a voice?
Yeah, so that's how I started She Podcasts. But I still did my own company where I was doing branding and business consulting, mostly around branding and web design, until 2019. So we've done the podcast and had little workshops and stuff through She Podcasts since 2013. So 6 years in, I wanted to do the first event, and it's a full-time job. So I stopped doing the other things and just solely focused on doing the event and making She Podcasts a business. But yeah, I have a communications degree, and then I got a master's certificate in graphic design, which is not the same as a master's degree, but I'll take it. I don't even think that I have good podcasting like technique. Like I'm not trained in audio. I have done a lot of speaking, but like my dad was a video production person. Like he has a master's in video production, and he's been a professor of that, and then he had his own business. Anyway, besides the point, I don't know audio is my point. My point is that I don't know what the knobs mean and the levels, and like it's all a mystery to me.
Are we
I
supposed to
can do
know that? Sorry, I've been
I
doing it
mean,
wrong
we
all
don't
this
have
time
to.
too.
We don't have to. I mean, I at least knew what button to push when you told me that my voice was too quiet. Like I did know that button, but that is the extent of the buttons that I know. I don't know any of no, and actually no, you don't have to know those. It's just
Phew.
my editor would like it if I knew a little more, I think, because I do a lot of like I sit back, sit forward. I'm not the best podcaster, but I do like helping women try and either first of all give themselves permission for it not to be perfect as they're doing it, and then I also enjoy the whole aspect of just having it be whatever they want, whatever they can come up with, whatever fits in their life, without it having to be like the way to do it. Like, and there are so many women out there who are like, but I need to know the right way, and there's not really a right way, I don't think.
No, I agree with you. And I think sometimes you've just got to get started. I know it took me quite a while
Exactly.
before I got started, but eventually I
Really?
got started. Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Because I was, thinking, oh, well, I got to do this and I got to know that and I got to, sort that out and blah,
Yeah,
blah,
email
blah. And
marketing, social media marketing, graphic design. There's so many things that go into it.
mm,
And I am one of those people that feels like if it's not perfect then it doesn't go out. But you have to curb that a little. I think that happens as you get older. You just stop. It's like with each significant birthday, you give less and less of a what as to whether or not people care if you're perfect.
absolutely. I mean, the perfection boundaries just, just go all
Yeah,
over the
it's one of
place,
the
don't they?
few delightful things about aging is that I just care less and less about impressing people, even your own spouse.
Mm.
Like that whole thing is completely different than it was when we got married 20 years ago.
Yeah, you will like me or you will lump it.
That's right. That's right. Like me or there's the door, bro. I don't care.
So, why is She Podcast so important to you? What has it brought to your life?
I mean, firstly, it has brought the most amazing network of people ever. And there is something very special about podcasters specifically, different than bloggers, different than, I mean, I already had a pretty strong online support system of women because of my show was a women's entrepreneurial show. But podcasters in particular are very passionate about what they do. Almost, I mean, and there are definitely comedy podcasters, but there's also usually a spin, like their mom comedy, or they're raised, it's comedy and something about philanthropy, or they're talking about children with autism, or they're talking about, I mean, they just have all the most amazing causes and reasons for what they're doing. And it has enriched my life in so many ways. And so it's important for me to give back to them because I know how difficult it is to continue to podcast. And like you said, it gives people a platform where they don't necessarily have it. And even still, only 30% of podcasters are women, which means that we're behind because we're so busy doing stuff for other people, I think. But I feel like there are stories out there that aren't being told because they don't think they have the time. They don't think anyone would listen. They don't understand the technology. They're afraid that someone will judge them, that their husband will hear it, or sometimes it's like if you face the thing you really want to say, once it's out there, you can't take it back, which is true. And then you have to do something about it, which is hard. So, I think that we're more often in situations that we have been, I don't want to say stuck, but we're more often in situations where we'd like to change but don't know how. And I think that talking about those things doesn't just empower us to do it, but our listeners too. That's why it's
Absolutely.
important to me. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, these conversations, as you were saying, they're conversations that generally are not necessarily being had. And that's always been the format for my podcast, I've wanted it to feel as if the listener is just the third person sitting at the kitchen table and we're having a chat, and they can't say anything, but they could be going, oh yeah,
Right.
in the background. You never know. And people have told me that they do that. They nod along as they're listening
Me
and things
too.
like that.
I get that a lot too, and those are my favorite types of shows too. Is when you're there but you're not there, because I love being told people are yelling at their car radio like the answers to things that I'm. It's
Go,
the best part
yes,
is being a part of it.
yes.
Yeah, yeah, that's totally the best part. I agree.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So I have wanted to go to She Podcast Live. And of course, it's a bit of a long way to go to
It
She
is.
Podcast Live for
It
me.
is.
But tell me about the event and organizing it, and what is it like and what's important about it?
So the first year it was delightful. So it wasn't actually my original idea. There was already podcast conference. There were two actually. There was Podcast Movement here in the States and Podfest. And they were both very different. They both started around the same time. They were nice. They were great. I had the time of my life when I went, but I didn't always get the opportunity to hang out with the women in my community for as long as I wanted to. And then, it was like over a course of like 5 years, like I would go and I'd be like, that's great, but I wish this meetup wasn't in a sports bar, or I wish the t-shirts were something other than navy blue and gray. Or I wish that like, why are we networking at like a golf hitting, like a batting cage? Like, just little things started to irritate me. Why do we have to be there at 8 o'clock? Like I just had a kid in 2014. So like when I left to go I didn't want to be somewhere until 10. Like, let me sleep for the love of all that is holy. And then I thought, you know what? Women never get to sleep a little bit. Never. First, people were like, you should have your own conference. I think it would be really fun. And then I started thinking, you know what I would do? I would do this differently and this differently and this differently. And then it just sort of was like, okay, well, I'm going to have to do it. And so the first time I did it was 2019, right before the pandemic. It was brilliant. 800 people came. We made money. Everything was beautiful. And then 4 months later, COVID happened. And then I had already signed a contract with a hotel and I had to postpone it. And then I had it. And then I signed another contract with a hotel. And this, so what is it like to plan it? I mean, I will say that the first year, first of all, I'll just say that I particularly am very arrogant when it comes to taking on projects, in that I think it will be easier always than it is. I think that, and this is definitely ADHD. I think that I'm like, it'll just, all work itself out. But for the most part, I can handle that. I can do seven projects at once. I can do this. And I cannot. And I had no idea what an event entailed, because I thought, well, I'm divorced. So I've had 2 weddings and 2 bar bat mitzvahs. So, how much different could it be? And the answer is, people usually want to come to weddings and bar mitzvahs because they don't have to pay for those events. Whereas like I had to convince people to, pay money to come and do this whole thing. It's much harder, much, much harder. It's easier with a team, a supportive team. I would say that I don't recommend doing any kind of events anytime near a pandemic and then a following recession. That part has been very difficult, very, very difficult, disheartening even. Because
I remember when you had to cancel it. I remember that. Yeah, because
yes,
it was
that
there
was
and it was such
awful.
tantalizing for me. And then seeing it was cancelled. Yeah.
Yeah. Are
Very
you talking
sad.
about this past like October? Or are you
No,
like
the one
I
before.
oh yeah, okay. Because I postponed in October. This past October for June, because we just didn't have the ticket sales. And it's coming up on that time where I'm looking at what's coming in and trying to figure out, if I can afford to do it again. And it's not an easy answer, especially as it gets closer, because most people don't like to buy their tickets until right before. But what really happens is you have to end up like telling the hotel or paying the hotel like 2 months in advance whether or not you're going to have the money. And sometimes you don't know. Like in these times, you don't know. So that part has been very tricky, um, because you don't want to say to your community, like, either you buy tickets or we have to do something different. because who would buy a ticket after that? But you also don't want to be like, I mean, there's a lot of ways you can get people to buy tickets. If you do end up having to do something different, doing a push to see if it helps is not always the best idea, right? Because then so many people have just bought tickets and then you have to pivot anyway and do something different anyway, and it's awful. All of that is awful. My biggest lesson in life is belonging and community, and it means a lot to me, but I also don't want to tell them, God bless America. I also don't want to tell them anything they don't want to hear because it scares me and it makes me feel very uncomfortable. And I've worked really hard to create a space that feels safe, that feels nurturing and supportive and inspirational, and that doesn't go along with canceled events or changed events. And I don't know, it really messes with my psyche to have to make changes like that, and because I know that it's disappointing. Hundreds of people plus thousands of people see that you can't do something or that you've had to change something, and it's like it's the worst. So yeah, I guess it has been one of the biggest challenges. In a lot of ways, it's been very rewarding. And in a lot of ways, it's taught me very great lessons about speaking up myself, like in personal relationships, asking for help, which I still hate to do, but have humbled myself, um, and being direct. I also have found, especially the first year, I was a little too subtle about things. Like, because we had a Kickstarter that first year.
I find that difficult to imagine.
I know, you would think so. But here's how I learned it. The first year we did a Kickstarter and I sold however many tickets, say 500 tickets. And then I chose speakers, and speakers get free tickets, which meant that those speakers who had donated to the Kickstarter wanted that money back. And I was like, I didn't say just no. Instead, I was like, if you could give your ticket to someone else, that would be ideal. And then I would still get, well, no, I'd still like a refund. And then it's like, it's a donation. I can't. But I mean, it took me like 3 different communications before I was like, here's the deal. No. I couldn't do it. Kickstarter doesn't allow refunds. I'm sorry. But that's the kind of thing I mean. Like, because I don't want to tell people something they don't want to hear, I can have a little bit of a soft touch at first because I'm trying to be subtle and not direct, and it's not helpful. You should just say what you got to say. But it's hard sometimes, even for someone who's normally very direct, it's hard.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can't imagine organizing something as big as this. And, the risks involved, I completely understand. There's a massive risk. That's one reason I did a couple of live events right back at the beginning when I started my sort of midlife thing. And the first one, it was a loss leader. It was a complete loss leader. I didn't make any money at all out on it. And the second one, I had to cancel it because I couldn't sell any tickets. Just getting bums on seats is so hard. And this was tiny compared to what you're doing, tiny, but it is very difficult.
I mean, I'm in a similar boat. I wish that I could wait until June 18th to be like, okay, I can either afford it or I can't. Because if you look at your sales line, like even for those events, when I look back at the sales from the last 2 years, there's an enormous spike like 2 weeks before the event. But who can wait that long? I can't wait that long to know if people are coming. So you have to cancel things, even though I'm sure people were like, oh, I was just going to buy my ticket. Were you? Well, that would have been helpful a week ago. How about you do it when I announce it instead? How about that? Yeah, it's hard. I don't want to have to, I mean, it's hard. I guess we'll have to see. I am still overturning rocks. Like you said, I'm still hustling to find ways to still have everything that we want and enough money to have it all. So,
well, I know 2 podcasters who are definitely going to be there. They've asked me if I was going to be there. Yeah, the women from We Should Talk About That. They're planning to be there. So
good.
They're very cool. They're very cool.
They are very cool.
And they said, are you coming, Rachel? And I said, no, probably not.
You can't come. I wish you could.
It's rather a long way. I would love it. And also you talk about it being, I think there's somewhere in there for like introverts. Is that right? You talk about
we have an introvert extrovert party. Yes. Yeah. It's delightful. So again, stemming from the other events that I went to, where it was always like loud, pumping music in a bar where there's nowhere for it to be quiet. So I created an introvert extrovert party where, yes, we have a DJ in a ballroom, but we also have a whole space for people who don't want to hear it, who want to talk intimately with one another. And I think it helps people who wouldn't normally come to something social at a function come anyway. That's really what I want, is for them to have opportunities to meet each other. And if the only social event is screaming loud music, like that's not conducive to networking or having fun for some people. So I want everyone to feel involved. So yeah.
You mentioned that you have ADHD, so let's take a little
Yes.
detour into ADHD and
Absolutely.
what it means for you and when you found out and how has it impacted you?
So I was always told as a kid, my report cards were kind of like dichotomous, where like they would be like, she's well behaved, she's very social, she's smart, she's this and that. But then like I would have terrible handwriting, I would get in trouble for talking, things like that. And it was always like, always somewhere on there was she's not living up to her full potential, which I guess meant shut the hell up and sit down. I don't know. but But I sailed through. I'm from a very small town in Maryland. I sailed through grammar school and I sailed through high school. And then when I got to college, I went to all my classes, same as I did in high school. I went to all my classes. I never studied. And I started failing everything because there was like 30 pages of homework a night. And I was like, if I just go to the lecture, I don't have to do that. Well, that is not true. You have got to read everything because they're not lecturing on everything, which was different. So yeah, I started failing, and then right around the same time, my parents decided to split up. So I went to a psychologist, a psychiatrist, somebody local, to be like, I thought maybe I was depressed and that's why I wasn't doing well. And he was like, yeah, but also you might have ADHD. And I was like, oh, because nobody really talked about it then or knew what it was. It was 30 years ago. So, oh my God, I'm so old. That was a terrible thing to say. Anyway,
I'm a lot older than you, so watch it.
no, but you look younger though, which was really all that matters. We can say right now. I'm kidding.
No, you're on the wrong podcast to say that.
I know, I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm joking. So I started Wellbutrin back then because I guess he thought it would help with both, and it did for a little while, but ADHD people are notorious for hating to take medication. I'm one of those people. I can barely force myself to take an Advil with a headache. My hair has to be on fire for me to take a Tylenol for no good reason. So I stopped taking medicine, or I didn't want to take it then, and I struggled for a long time with jobs. I used to, when I turned 40, I wanted to write a book called 40 Jobs in 40 Years, which is what I had 40 jobs. I got remarried I got married and divorced, remarried when I was 29. And my mother passed away like 5 years later. I was 30. No, 1 year later. I was 30. And I decided to quit my job and start my own business because I thought if I only have 25 years left, if I'm going to die that early, I want it to be doing not something that I hate. So I quit my job. I took myself back to school for graphic design. And my husband said, I will support you on one condition. You need a business coach that specializes in people with ADHD, and you have to be medicated. No excuses. And I was like, okay, I'll take it. And I have not had a day without it since. Not one day without it. And it has helped enormously in medication. Like I take Concerta and I do take Wellbutrin. And they go together nicely and they help with anxiety and yeah, but I mean, I learned young, but I didn't actually learn my lesson until I was like 30. And then once I did that, it just gives you enough to be able to pay attention to the conversations you're having, maybe to remember what you said earlier about what you're having for dinner, like just things that normal people can do that make you feel like a failure that you can't do. Those are the things that I can do now. It doesn't mean that I don't have an amazing, brilliant idea and then get bored halfway through. That happens every day. Every day I have a new idea for a business that I want to start. I could do that all day long. Just make
See,
up
it's a
reasons.
superpower.
It is, but also I can't finish anything. Or when it comes to close to finishing something, I get nervous. My friend Melissa, who also has ADHD, she calls her and her husband 80/20. Like she'll come up with a project, she'll do 80% of it, and then he'll have to finalize the last 20% because she's like, I can't do anymore.
Why? Why does it get to the stage that you can't finish it?
I think that you've gotten a burst of energy and creativity and planning and stuff, and then you ride that high. But then once you crash, because either you're tired, you're overwhelmed, you're bored, any of those things could happen, and you're just like, all right, I need to go watch a movie. And you could leave, like if I'm putting together furniture, that's not good. So he'll come behind her and, tighten the last screws or whatever, because she's just like, I'm done. And it's true. Like I'll be like, oh, I'll just do it later. And that's why I sometimes live out of a laundry basket, because I cannot finish the last part of the laundry. I will throw it in, I will move it around, I will take it upstairs, and then nothing. There's no good reason. It's just
And
like,
is that a classic sort of thing with ADHD?
I think so. Yeah, we find it very hard to. It's executive function, right? To start something and then and then have a plan and then finish it all the way to the end. We're a little bit more impulsive.
And you've also described yourself as both a young mom and an old mom. So how did that happen?
Oy vey. So that happened because my senior year of college, I got pregnant with my daughter, and I had my daughter, and then I went back to college to finish. I had one semester left, split it into two. And by the time I had started my second semester, I was pregnant with my son. So I graduated 8 months pregnant and had my little boy. And then I got divorced from their dad, like probably 3 years later. Both of those were a surprise, by the way. I was on birth control with my daughter, and we were using other kinds of contraception for nothing worked. He had like super sperm or something. I don't know. It was just destined to be. So I had both of them, and then I got divorced, and then I got remarried, and I wanted to have kids with him. We got remarried when I was 29. But we lived in a really small house, and we had planned on only living there for a little bit. Like we started in 2004, and then in 2008 the market crashed, and so we all of a sudden, where we had a good investment in this house, all of a sudden we were like upside down on it. So we couldn't leave for the longest time, and it was a 3-bedroom, and I have a son and a daughter. So we were like, why don't we just put the baby in the basement? Why don't we put Emily in the basement? Why don't we, like I just didn't want to do it too late. And he was like, no, 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 no. Well, then around 2012, his father passed away and left us in his will a cash amount to put down on a bigger house so we could have a baby. Well, so then you're like, well, I guess I have to do it now. But no, I mean, I wasn't sure if I could at that point, because in 2012 I was like, let's see, I was like 37. And I thought, okay, well, look, maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't. I'll go get the test. And we got the test, and they were like, well, this is his problem, this is your problem, but maybe if we fix those problems. And I was like, all right, we'll go to the next test. And each time I was like, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Oh, well, ski. Well, we did all the tests, and we got very few eggs and even less embryos and one good one, and but I've already grown 2 children. I'm a proven entity, so they say. So like they planted him and he grew, and so now I have a little boy. I had a little boy in 2014. My older children were like 16 and 17.
Wow.
So it's ridiculous.
Wow.
So the first time around, I was an extremely young mom. All my friends were 60. And I was 45. I mean, like all my friends were, no, I guess I was 30. So they were like 55. And and all our kids were the same age. But I still was like, I felt kind of like an outsider. And now all my friends are like 40, 38, 39, 40, and I'm 48. So I guess I'm just meant to be an outsider no matter what I do, right? Because I can't just get the timing right for one thing.
Yeah, but it means you're straddling all these different generations. I should imagine, actually.
That's true.
There'll come a time when you can look back and say, well, I can interact with that generation, and I understand what's going on there.
Yeah, I actually do appreciate that now that you say that, because they are 2 different generations for whatever reason. Like I'm Gen X, and I think my older kids are very end of millennials, beginning of Gen Y, and then this one is Gen Z, and they are very different. It's interesting to
Yeah, I
see.
think that, yeah.
Yeah, like Emily and Nate, like I didn't have. I mean, I guess I had cell phones when they were born. Maybe like it was 97, 98. So, but like computer was still dial up, and we still had regular cable. We had more channels than when I was a kid, but not as many as Isaac has like an unlimited supply. He has a thought. And then goes on YouTube and learns more about that thought. So if he's like, I wonder what the Titanic is like, boom, he's an expert about the Titanic in 2 days. It's amazing.
It is amazing. I'm constantly in awe of it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I just love everything about it and being able to discover stuff because I'm an information junkie. I just want to
Yeah,
learn,
me
learn,
too.
learn. Yeah, love it.
My husband, I've told that my husband used to do book reports on the encyclopedia just for fun. So like, and I'm
Oh,
like,
he
that's the
wasn't
nerdiest.
a Wikipedia person.
No, right.
No.
But he had it in its big old encyclopedia pack because they used to sell them door to door. So he would read them. So, and actually, if my son had an encyclopedia, it would be great because he now knows he can tell you the colors and design of every single country's flag without fail. He knows all of them, name any country, and he'll just tell you right off the top of his head. But he also now is an expert. We've been watching MASH, which is a really old show. So now he also knows about army medals because during that show he started wondering about what medals and stuff they had on their shirts. He knows about the Titanic. He's obsessed with that. It's just, and when he was younger, even like he was 3 and he knew everything about vampires. He used to call himself a vampire. He was a vampire. And he would tell total strangers when we left the house that he was going to suck their blood. And I'm like, he just thinks just don't even. It was really embarrassing. But I mean, they get really into whatever it is
Oh
they're
yeah.
into.
Yeah,
And then it's like they have to read every single thing about it.
brilliant. I think that's a good skill to have.
I think so too. It's very, and it's also, you can certainly have worse hobbies. That's for sure.
Now I hear you're also you're obsessed with ChatGPT.
Yes.
And so am
I
I. I've
am.
just
You
discovered
are?
it. Yes, so am I.
It's so great.
Tell me about what you've been up to with ChatGPT. And
So
some
at
of my listeners may not
first-
even know what it is. I don't know. They may not know
Oh,
what it is.
really?
But
Okay. Well, then let's just say, okay. So it is a knowledge center that you can talk to like in conversation. So if Alexa knew everything and wasn't awkward and could hear properly, it would be Chat GPT. But you type into it, so it has no way of misunderstanding you the way Alexa does. Yeah, so at first it was like I heard, oh, you can ask it to, fix your writing or write an email. So and I'm usually better about emails if someone starts it for me and then I can edit it and add in my own personality. So I started with that. People started typing up like lists of different tools you could use. So I would start signing up for like free trials of this and that. Jasper's one of them where it does all this marketing writing for you and it'll give you outlines for blogs. It'll write the blog. It'll do product descriptions, everything, SEO, everything. And I really like Jasper. And then, there were a few more that started coming out. Like the latest one I have is lately.ai, which is, it's pretty amazing. You upload a blog article, text, audio, or video of any kind. It will, in 5 seconds, transcribe it and then create social media, like 94 different posts, and you just approve or deny it, and then you can schedule it right from this thing. It's the most amazing thing I've ever seen.
I need this tool.
Lately.ai. It is not cheap, but the founder was going to be one of the speakers at my event, so I'm excited to grill her about it. Anyway,
Wow.
yeah, so that's a cool one. I mean, there's a bunch. The only thing I can't seem to master is the art. I'm a visual person, but I cannot seem to verbalize what I want to see. I don't know enough about art to tell it like which type of, like, is it impressionist or I don't know. I don't know. Just make it pretty. I don't know. And so I end up like I asked it for a bowl of fruit and it gave me a bowl of stuff that it looked like fruit, but it wasn't fruit that I've ever seen. It was close. It was like a banana orange mix. Like it was weird. So here's the most recent thing I did. There's 2 recent things I did that I thought, wow, we're going to eliminate so many jobs. The first one is Okay, so in the fall, my husband had a gallbladder infection, and we had no idea what was wrong with him for weeks. He was just constantly doubled over in pain, but he thought it was gas, then it wouldn't go away, and like he couldn't sleep, and everything hurt, and it was terrible. So I typed in to chat. This is months after he had gallbladder surgery. It's removed. He's fine. Everything's fine. When I figured out ChatGPT, I was like, you know what? I'm just curious about something. So I type in all the symptoms: male, 52, complaining of pain under ribs, not, whatever. I gave it all the symptoms and it said, this sounds like a gallbladder infection. And I was like, oh.
Wow.
So if I just give you my symptoms, I'm just saying
Wow.
you can diagnose yourself much easily than you can just reading WebMD. Which is both good and bad, I think.
Yeah.
Because on the one hand, we know we need to advocate for ourselves. But on the other hand, we don't want everyone to be an amateur doctor. That's bad news. So I thought that was unbelievable. The thing I did this week was I got curious and I said, okay, this is my birthday. Can you, based on my birthday, pull up my astrological chart? and it was like, okay, well, we're just an information processing thing. But yes, based on your birthday, I can see that you're a Capricorn with a Pisces moon and Cancer rising, whatever. And I was like, okay, great. Now, do you have an understanding of the current planet's positioning for April, 13th, 2023? And it said, yes, I know what the current planet's positioning are. I said, okay, based on my astrological birth chart and the current planet's positioning, can you give me idea of what tomorrow might be like for me? And it was like, sure, based on the fact that you're a Capricorn and Saturn is in, Uranus and Pluto is in whatever it is, this is what you can expect. This is what's probably going to happen. Just be careful. Also, this isn't really, you should probably talk to a real astrologer. And I was like, I mean, I love that it even like suggests that in the end, but really, why bother? You've just told me everything I needed to know. If you know my chart and you know the planets and you can tell me what's happening, what do I need an astrologer for? Why don't you pull a tarot card while you're at it? Tell me what card you see. Well, you got the 6 of Cups, which meant all kinds of success. Yeah, I mean, it does the same thing, and I'm like, great. Cheers. Thank you so much. It was great.
That's unbelievable. So how did you set that up, though? Because,
it's a language processor. So with the right prompt, you can ask it to do almost anything. Some of the prompts I've seen are, okay, you pull it up and you go, you are the world famous author William Shakespeare. Assuming that you're William Shakespeare, you're talking to me who's a budding writer and author. What advice would you give me as a new playwright? And you can get advice from flipping Shakespeare. It's amazing. It's incredible. Anybody, Galileo, Elvis,
wow,
anybody you want.
I haven't done enough. All I've got it to do is got it to write a couple of blog posts for me.
Brilliant. I've had it write a lot of emails. I've had it start web copy for me. I've had it do website outlines. I mean, but that was just, but if you follow enough people on LinkedIn who give you interesting prompts, you will be able to do the most. I mean, that stuff's not stuff I could sell necessarily. Like, it's not like I'm not trying to, like make a living with it. Although I think you could. I've been trying to teach my older son how to make a living with it because whatever, he's working at Chipotle and he hates it. So I'm like, well, here's ChatGPT. It's the most amazing thing ever. But, I like to think about, like, what if Alexa had this skill? I could just sit here and talk to her. I'm having this problem. Let's say you're an event planner and, I'm having this trouble where I'm not sure what to do and I could have the money, but also, people, what do you suggest? Should I do A, B, or C? And then it will tell you based on everything it knows before 2021, which is weird, right? But it only goes up to 2021. So you kind of have to be like, because it said, I asked it first if it knew the current planets when I was doing the astrology, and it said, no, we don't know anything, up to this point. And I said, do you know what today is? And it said, yes. I said, do you know any planet's positioning? It said, yes. So I said, okay, based on, I said, then I asked it, but it was a whole conversation where first I
So it
established
carries on, doesn't it, with the conversation? So,
yes.
see, I thought that each time you put something into the chat box, that was new, whereas actually it's
Mm-mm.
building on what you've already discussed, right?
Yes, which is why if you
Okay.
tell it about, so because actually one of my first conversations with it was, do you know Jessica Kupferman? And it said, yes, Jessica Kupferman is this old and works in this field and has done this, this, and this. Because I've had enough podcast interviews
Oh,
where, yeah,
that'll
I'm sure
be
it
good
knows
for
you.
the ego, right?
I'm sure it knows you as well, Rachel. I mean, you've had your show for a while. I'm sure it knows you too. So first I established that, then I established, whether or not it could write an email in my writing style. And it was close. It wasn't far off.
Wow.
It had a lot of, positivity and sidebars and, all kinds of stuff that I do. And then I asked it if it could write me an email the way Oprah would write it. And it did that as well. It was like very nurturing and
Wow.
supportive, and it was great.
That's freaky though, isn't it? That's a bit
Yeah,
freaky. Wow.
it's pretty freaky. I mean, especially if you're like, write it in the style of my arch nemesis, and then like you could pass yourself off as someone, maybe even, I don't know. But I just see a world where we can just talk to this thing, whatever it is, a robot, whatever, and it can give you advice on stuff. What's the best way to make money with ChatGPT? I bet you could tell you 10 different ways right now.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. And in some ways it's creepy, and in some ways it's really promising. I mean, what if it takes over so many different jobs like lawyer, doctor? It can pass the LSATs, the bar exam.
I
here.
read that.
So what if it takes over so many different jobs that all we're left to do with is enjoy ourselves and each other, go on vacation? What if it can eliminate the need for currency? Because if you don't have to pay for medical care, if you have all the supplies you need and a diagnoser at your service, like, what if we I mean, this is a long time in the future, but I'm just saying, and I'm a Star Trek fan, so that's also a thing. But like, I would love the idea of not having to need money, because we don't need to pay anyone for anything, because we have everything we need, all the answers. We don't need a publicist. You don't need a hairstylist. You can just ask it how to do stuff and then just do it.
Yeah, but you can't cut your own hair very easily, can you? You're still going to need somebody else to do your hair.
I mean, I'm not that ambitious, but I mean, but I could if I had to, is the point. I mean, there's a lot of people who watch YouTube and do it. Well, I mean, this could be the same. I don't know. I know this is far ahead in the future, but I love the idea of us not having to be beholden to each other for anything other than enjoying each other's company and having fun. I mean, I'm living in a dream world, clearly. But
well, this has been really illuminating. My goodness me, a little trip inside Jessica's crazy head.
I know, it is crazy. I know, I'm a little too optimistic. I know our healthcare system is such a mess, though. The idea of not having to pay for 8 different doctors, one for your feet, one for your skin, and one for your everything, it would be such a relief for so many people to just fix what was wrong with them without having to pay millions of dollars to figure it out. What if it could teach us how to age slower and we could live longer?
I know, there's all sorts of possibilities, aren't there?
But also, what if it can teach us how to, I mean, I think it will eventually have to be very highly regulated. I can see there being laws about what you can and can't ask it, for safety purposes. But until then,
well, you've completely opened up possibilities for me, because I was just thinking, that it could just write things for me, whereas I had no idea it could do all of this other stuff as well, like cutting my hair.
Until there's regulation, you can go ahead and have lunch with any celebrity you want, dead or alive.
Really?
Why not? Just say, hey, we're having lunch. Let me ask you this question. How would you answer if you were, and just see what it says.
Wow.
There's probably enough books and articles written by Oprah, about Oprah, where you could gather, if you had access to all of that in one place.
So I want to get my book in front of Oprah. So I'm going to go off now to ChatGPT, and I'm going to say, how do I get my book in front of Oprah?
Yeah. And then if it says you just say, well, first you should say you're a book publicist.
Okay.
And you pretend you're a book agent or whoever would do that currently, you know, and like, or you can say, what's the best way to get on the blog? Or you can say, where does she live? I don't know, like however you want to do it, you know, just try and play with different ways to get it in front of her.
Oh, how exciting.
Could I be her
Wow.
veterinarian? I know she has 3 dogs. Whatever it is, do what you got to do.
Oh
How
my
desperate are you? Is really the
goodness. Wow.
I know, it's
You've
crazy.
just opened up a whole new world for me. Thank you.
I can't wait to hear what you do with this information. I hope it's safe and productive for all of us. But really, your mind just explodes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it makes me feel like, why can't I do the freaking art? Like, I'm so good at this other part, but like, I can't make a picture of I said a woman of color, a podcasting woman of color. And it was like Barbie podcaster with pink headphones. And like, I mean, she had brown skin, but like whoever it was had like a weird dreamy, like it was the weirdest. I can't give it enough information to do something interesting with art, but I can definitely prompt it to tell me things. I guess we all have our skills.
All right, we're gonna have to wind up.
Rachel.
Otherwise, we're gonna be here. We're gonna be here forever talking about
sorry,
what
Rachel.
we can do on ChatGPT.
Midlife rocks. That's all. We'll just end it on that. Midlife is best. I'm having the most fun I've ever had in my life. I
Are
have
you?
both money. Yes, I have both money and
Good.
wisdom.
Good.
I think the more older you get, the more money you make. Hopefully, and it just
that's
gives
not
you
always
freedom.
that's not always the case, though.
That's true.
You know,
Hopefully, I said.
we
but I mean,
we have a lot of women over here who, because you've got the problem of needing to work because they keep raising the pension age, and yet you've got ageism, which doesn't allow you to either stay in work or get into work if you're out of work. So you've got that sort of double issue there. So
So another reason why podcasting is great, right? Because you can make it a business. You are completely reliant on your own talents and skills and no one and nothing else. And we know what we're capable of. We don't have to listen to other people tell us that we're not able to do this or that because we're older. It's horse pucky anyway. Have you seen the Golden Girls? Like
yes,
they look old. And we're like, I mean, like, you know,
they're
supposed to
young.
be
They're
our
a lot
age.
younger than me.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. But we don't look like them. I look younger now than my mother did at 30. What are their hairstyles all about? Like,
Yeah,
they
I
just
know.
look.
What was
So I
all
think
that?
some of that ageism comes from that too, where like, first of all, I can't even begin to guess your age. You could be 35, you could be 55. I have no idea. No clue whatsoever. So you would think that ageism would sort of like even that out. You know, it would like, because
Well,
we
I'll
look
tell
younger.
you, I'm 56. I'm nearly
Shut
57.
your face. I don't believe that.
Yes,
Really?
I am, yeah.
I'd
And I
never know.
don't dye my hair. I haven't had any Botox. Haven't had any.
Do you have
treatment.
wrinkles anywhere?
Yes, I do. Look, it's
Where?
there? They're all round my eyes.
Oh, look what she has to do to her face to show us, though. She has to squint like she's in the sun. I mean, to be fair, I don't
Yeah,
have
but
any here,
it's-
but I do
I
have
have
these.
lots here. No, I have lots here.
Yeah, I have the one angry one
Yeah,
that you
I
have.
do too. There
I
you see. You
also
can
have-
see that one.
I can, but just because you made the face. But then I also have this right here. This is called marionette lines, which means that every time I try to make an avatar, it always goes and looks like it makes me look sad in every single one because I have like lines. I don't know how to get rid of them besides concealer, Botox. I don't know.
I'm always telling non-British people it's because it's rainy here and cloudy and we don't see the sun very much. That's why.
My mom was also a fluffy woman. She used to say is because she
Fluffy?
was partial.
What is it? What does fluffy
Fluffy.
mean?
It means like fat, but it's fluffy.
Oh.
It's nicer. She was a heavier woman like myself, and she used to say, I don't wrinkle because I'm now partially made of olive oil. She's eaten so much pasta. She's like, there's more olive oil in here than water, so I look wonderful.
Olive
But it
oil
does
is
kind
very
of make you
good.
worry. Yeah, it does kind of make me worry. Like if I lose weight, am I going to get all wrinkly? That would be terrible.
Well, there is a saying over here that you either have you get to a certain age and it's either the body or the face.
I will pick the face every time. You can hide the body. I don't want to. You can't hide the face. That's actually why I spend more money on hair and makeup than I do on like shoes and clothes. Because this is what people see, especially on Zoom. I could be wearing no pants right now. You wouldn't know. I mean, I
You are,
am.
though, aren't you?
I am, yeah. I am wearing pants, but I don't
Now,
have
listen,
to.
we've been talking for over an hour, and I'm
sorry,
not going
I'm
to want
sorry.
to. I'm not going to want to cut this back. So I'm going to have
you're
to.
right.
I'm going to have to get you to wind up now. So I want.
All right, I'm done.
No, don't need to be done. But I want you to go out with a gem. What do you most want my
No pressure,
listeners
though.
to know? Over to you.
Okay. All right. First of all, thank you for allowing me to pontificate as long as we have today on this episode. I've enjoyed it immensely and I appreciate it so much. I think if I had to give people advice and sum it up, I would say some rules were made to be broken, and you don't know which ones they are until one doesn't make sense to you in your head. Then you break that one, or at least find a way around it to either have what you want or find what you want or create what you want. Just because nobody's ever done it before doesn't mean you shouldn't try it or start. And I've done a lot of fun stuff that way. Just, like my conference, for example, like no one had ever done it before, but so what? Maybe I was arrogant to think that I could do it, definitely. But a women's podcast, a women's tech conference, like you don't see that a lot. And why not? Why can't I? Why shouldn't we? And I think as you get older, you have more experience, which means you have more wisdom, which means you know your way around things better than others. So you have even more capability of getting what you want than you think because you're smarter. That's my advice.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Magnificent Midlife Podcast. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, follow, and share it. Also, giving a 5-star review really helps get the word out. You'll find the show notes at magnificentmidlife.com. That's also where you can get my book, Magnificent Midlife, Transform Your Middle Years, Menopause, and Beyond. Make the very best of your next chapter. Help me change the world, one magnificent midlife woman at a time.